Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to this in the first of a 4-race series. I'm Beanster. I'll be your sole commentator for this evening. And we should enjoy the racing for the next hour and a half. We're 10 minutes left or thereabouts of qualifying here at Suzuka. And we'll run through that in a second, just to make sure that everything's working from my end technically. So first and foremost, what is this? This is the start of a new series. We're part of a four-stage series. This is the first race, which today is the 14th of August 2020. And the format is quite simple. It's 20-minute qualifying for each race. And it's a 60-minute race, and each race has a mandatory pit stop where each driver must change at least 2 tyres. This is a great series. This one is a single car series. These are the DTM95 C-Class Mercedes AMG. We'll go through some of the data on that in a minute, but this is a 4-round series which starts here at the Suzuka GP circuit. Next week, we'll visit Road America. The following week, Spa-Francorchamps, and then I think we might have a week after that, or maybe a week break, when we move to Dubai Autodrome GP circuit. So plenty to play for. We have about 13 different drivers registered for the series. Tonight I can see we have 12 on, a couple of apologies already. And looking forward to seeing what the race is going to lay out for us this evening. So, interesting circuit, Suzuka. A very different type of racing here at this track. This is not actually that old a track, actually. It's a 1950s track. Actually, quite a long circuit. It's owned by Honda, which is one of the reasons that it came around. It was basically built about 1962, I think it was opened. Owned by Honda, was used provisionally at the start for their car testing. So most of their early cars were actually tested here first, but then became home of many different formats of racing. F1 GP, you'll often see the 8-hour Suzuka Endurance and the 10-hour Suzuka Endurance here. WTCR comes here, does Super GT and Super Formula, and there's quite a lot of superbike racing here as well. Over the years. It's a very famous track, actually designed by John Hugenholtz, also known as Hans Hugenholtz, who you may remember because he was one of the guys that designed the Zandvoort track. Great circuit, very long, around about 3.6 miles long, and an astonishing 18 turns to work through. And unlike most circuits where sometimes turns are named or numbered turns, but they're not actually turns, these are turns. It's actually a very windy circuit. Even the fast bits have got plenty of turns in them. Track record here, Lewis Hamilton last year, 2019, in the F1. Fascinating place to visit. You'll see as we go through it. We'll go through a quick track walk in a second. But a stunning circuit, very popular. Around about 150,000 will cram into this circuit on a race weekend when there's no pandemic. The pandemic. Alright, let's jump into a car. Let's take a little look round who's coming around the final corners here. That's a perfect moment. So let's jump in with British. And let's take a go around this circuit. So we're down the front straight here into the first right-hander, which is turn 1, and into turn 2. It's numbered as 2 turns here, and then we go through the S's. It's 3 into 4, balancing the throttle here throughout. The whole thing is just a huge process of throttle balancing and making sure you don't push out too early on the throttle. So we're going through the S curves, and then we'll exit this fast left-hander that is very precautionary on the exit. This is into Dunlop curve, a sweeping left-hander, before braking quickly and sharply to turn into Degner. This is Degner 1 and 2, effectively turns 8 and 9. As we then go under the bridge, this is a figure of 8 circuit. So under the bridge here, as we approach a jink, which is turn 10, into the hairpin, turn 11. First gear corner, very easy to run too wide in your anxiety to get on the throttle as this sweeps around a long right-hander, turn 12, and up to a really tricky corner, which is extremely important to get right under race circumstances, which is spoon curve, which is actually 2 curves here, turn 13, entering as fast as you can, getting that left-hand side, and then trying to resist the temptation to hit the throttle, because you can easily find yourself way over on the right-hand side here and off the curb, and that's spoon curve. So important to get right, because this back straight is quite long. You can get good draft up here as you enter towards 130R, very famous left-hander here, which you pretty much hammer around as fast as you dare before you brake hard into the 3-cornered Casio triangle. Right into 16, a left into 17, and then a fast exit onto 18, and then you're on the final straight again. It's actually quite a difficult circuit to hit a wall. That's from experience. Not being a great driver, occasionally will wander off track, but there's plenty of kitty, plenty of sandbanks, there's plenty of runoff, as you can see there, and actually that does tend to increase the chance that even if you have an off, you can still be in this race. You're not likely, it's not a Bathurst or a Monaco, for example. You can still maintain your pace in the race here. So we're looking at quali. We have 3 minutes left of quali. So far, Migales is at the front of the track here, but by about 0.6 of a second. But let's just run through the racers out there on circuit. Starting from the top here is Pedro Migales. We have BGB British. Visar's here. Madal's racing. Cos is racing. Phil Varley is racing. Marco's racing. Terry Agoris is racing. Jan Mulman's racing. Charger is racing. Alwyn's racing, as is Justin Burley. So, like I said, 12 cars on track today as we enter the final section of quali. Tight between the top 2 drivers. You've only got 0.6 of a second there. It looks like Pedro might have a comfortable position here at the top of the table. And just looking through the other lap times here, it's kind of split. We've got a second gap between position 2 and 3 currently, and then it's another half a second down to Madal. So quite a spread at the front there, but I guess it's quali 1 on the first series of the race, and if you haven't been testing in these cars, they take a little getting used to. I had a little crack at them earlier, and it reminded me how much these cars have so much grip. Very, very balanced car. A tendency to understeer on exit. So if you're too keen on the throttle, you'll find yourself pushed out to the far corner. They don't want to rotate quickly with throttle, so it's very difficult to get the balance unless you're a bit of a setup wizard. So the car doesn't particularly rotate in the middle of the corner under throttle, which can sometimes mean it's quite hard to tuck it in. But they're very, very grippy, very flat, and very stiff setup cars, which means riding curbs is very challenging and a risk. So currently looking like Pedro Migales is going to qualify first for this session, with British in second, Visar in third. Oops. Manal fourth, Phil Varley fifth, Cos in sixth, Marco seventh, Agoris in eighth, Mulman 9, Charger 10, Alwyn 11, Burley 12, and Dice in 13. Aha, so Jag Dice, very late entry. Confident, he's doing the Seb Vettel, right? He's going to rock up, put a blistering lap in. Although, with 45 seconds quali time, no chance. Great to see everyone here. Great to see the some of the guys from the last Friday sessions. Friday must be a good evening for these racers. Like me, a little bit more availability at the moment. Not going out, not doing much. And there you have a final quali positions. Great racing, and we'll be on the race any second. So quite a small grid tonight, just the 12 cars on track, which will mean that it'll be quite interesting as we pack into the actual practice session itself, actually into the race itself. Probably will have an interesting first few corners. It gets extremely clogged through the S's as you enter the first lap or so. Very easy to get caught up in an incident in the first lap or two as the cars are well packed through those quite difficult S's. Corner 1, a lot of space, a lot of positions, can easily get 3 wide around first corner, but it's when it starts to compress into 3, 4, 5 and 6 that it gets very easy to tag somebody else, maybe the accidental pit maneuver on the driver in front. Just need to keep it clean through that first few set of corners, and it'll start to sort itself out by the time you're outside of the hairpin, which is the next crunch corner in the first lap. Easy to get too late on the brakes in that first section. So what we're looking at here is the 1995 Mercedes AMG. It was around about 490 brake horsepower, only 1100 kilograms, with a V6 engine which revs like a motorbike, pretty much hitting a 12,000 rev red line, creating this really unique noise for a V6. Normally aspirated engine with a rear wheel drive. Like I said, very stiff car, which means that some of the curbs here at Suzuka are quite forgiving. You can ride a curb with a pretty stiff setup, but there's a couple that will really turn the car, or you'll get a little air and lose a lot of your exit speed as you are pushed too wide on the exit. Great motors, very iconic, and one of the cars which is largely touted to bring the ITC, the International Touring Car Championship, to life back in the 90s, as it was seen as quite an iconic vehicle for racing, and actually a really great brand for trading, for getting people interested in what became DTM further, much more through the 2000 series as well. Warm-up's just finishing. If you're old like me, warm-up is the opportunity to go and have a pee. If you're a bit younger, warm-up is an opportunity to get your final mistakes out of the way by whizzing around the track at crazy speeds. Okay, car starter file through onto the grid. Final setup tweaks. Final fuel settings. This is a mandatory pit stop race. Opportunities to take an early jump into the pit lane, or otherwise. And we're ready on the red lights to kick off tonight's race with Pedro on pole position, British in the second position on the first row. Great start off, a little bit of extra wheel spin I think from British there, under pressure immediately by Mad Al, who takes second straight from him there. So that's a great start to the race. Pedro got a comfortable first corner, and I think actually that's great. Mad Al made a great move there into the first corner from a bit of too much wheel spin from British. Varley pushing into fourth, which is a good consolidation of his qualifying position, and you can see a gap already a quarter of a second possibly from the leader as the team packs out in the middle field, and this is exactly where it gets tight. Cars going 2-3 wide here as they get their tyres up to temperature, find their way, but great driving, good awareness, making sure that you're not actually crashing. We've got somebody who's already spun off. That looks like it could be usual. I find it difficult to track those. Going back, looks like that was Mad Al. That was Mad Al. Made such a great move in the first corner and then got stuck somewhere and span out. So unfortunate. What a great and really promising start, and then he's blown it in the first corner. Now he's got a real job ahead of him for the next hour to try and get back into that position. He'll be so angry with himself. As we see somebody already in the pits here, that's Terry Agores. Whether that's a retirement or an issue, I don't know. Back to the racing. Owen putting pressure here on Cos in front of him. So a fairly clean start. I think that was probably just a regular mistake from Mad Al, but maybe we'll get a chance to find out later about that afterwards. But he'll be so disappointed as Pedro makes 1.5 seconds on British into the first lap. So already comfortably extending his lead at the front there, as we see Owen really looking to move. He goes to the outside roll out there as Cos takes the defensive line. Very tricky to make a pass here on the outside, but he's going for it. And if you get that move made, you get onto the inside into the next chicane section, which is absolutely fabulous as he goes into the Casio triangle. What a great move. Oh, a little bit of a dive there from Moolman, who gets a little bit touchy-feely on the exit there, and a little bit crazy on the exit as well. But a good move there. But if you're Cos, you're going to feel like you've been a little bit blundered by both of them as they push through into the triangle there. So now he's having to defend. Cos is having to defend from Charger, who's starting to see the pressure. What happens is you're sitting behind another driver and you see potential weakness. They look like they might have lost their rhythm, and you up the ante and start to put a bit more pressure. So Charger's putting a push now onto Cos as Jan Moolman starts to put a pressure onto Olwen as well. So Jan maybe was out of position in his qualifying. Looking, by the way, he's getting a move on here, taking the outside into turns number whatever that is, end of S curve, and into the Degner. Great start, some really clean racing. And good pushing and good maneuvers there, and you can see Jan is really putting a lot of pressure on here as we consolidate on lap 2 with Pedro Morales at the front, BGB British in second, Phil Varley in third, Marco making a great set of progress here into fourth, Olwen holding off Jan Moolman temporarily with Cos behind him and Charger behind him. Pressure here at the back, as you can see Justin Burley now starting to put a bit of pressure. Oh dear, Justin's actually taken a bit of a spin there, a little bit too interesting on the exit, but good manners, waits to re-enter. No driving across the track in this club, and we can now move back into the midfield here to see this compressed pack with Olwen, Moolman, Cos and Charger, who are pushing hard as Charger looks to make a move up the inside of Cos. Maybe a slight mistake there, a little bit too wide from Cos, and charges through very comfortably as Moolman sits right on the back of Olwen going into 130 yards. It'll be an interesting move. He's sending his snout up there. No, he's taken a second thought about that, and there could have, I didn't know whether that was lag or contact, but it's very, very close between these two drivers, and you can see that Olwen takes a defensive braking line, which has forced Jan Moolman into a very late manoeuvre, and he has given the place back, which is perfect. But he does have a slowdown penalty because he actually overcut the track there, as you can see. But in any case, I think he probably would have given that back. That's the way we work here at RWB. A really great start, some very exciting first tackles here. I think Jan is the man on the move, and he's made contact. He dived up the inside, a little bit too late on the braking. He couldn't get the car on the inside, and unfortunately he's taken out Cos. So Cos is now not Cos, I do apologise, Alwyn's now recovering, which is a bit of a shame. That looked like that was a little bit forceful, maybe a little bit of stress there from Jan Mulman trying to find his space, and he really did put his nose underneath the inside there as he now starts to move through the field here. So he maybe lost a space there. So Cos and Charger have moved through. So now we read Pedro Magales at the top, British in second, Vali in third, Marco in fourth, Charger in fifth, Cos in sixth, and Jan Mulman in seventh. And you can see Jan now, again, contact. Okay, this looks like either he's having a lagging issue or he's getting very heated in his desire to get to the front of this grid. Spinner off the side there, I think was, no, not Terry. So Justin Burley has also joined Terry in the pits here. Looks like a retiree. Phil Varley, I think we might have had a spinner earlier. Jan still pressuring the back of Cos here, looking very hungry to make this move. Looking a little bit excited in his moves to actually get past here. So you can see it's not been as clean as he probably would have liked it in the race so far, but up the rest of the field it seems to be going so far so good. Pedro has extended his lead at the front there to 2 seconds. Big gap between British and Marco now of 5 seconds, and Charger is only 2 seconds behind them. Best laps so far are only touching the 2:05s, both from Pedro and from British. Actually you can see quite a lot of pressure being put on again here by very difficult to judge. I couldn't see whether that was Jan just putting his car in the wrong place or whether that was Cos making a turn across him, and getting the feeling that Jan's got a little bit too much of adrenaline there. He's going on the outside of the Casio triangle into turn 16 in an attempt to put his car on the inside for turn 17, but it's extremely difficult maneuver to actually pull off. You can see that Jack Dice has had a slowdown penalty there, a little bit of track abuse. Did not see that. Jack Dice is running in 10th at the back at the moment. So just recap from quali positions. Pedro qualied first, is first. British second, is second, but it was actually all for Mad Al, who made it up to second place. If you remember, in lap 1 had a spin, and he's already made his way back up to position 7. So Mad Al still not out of this race by any man standards. We had Vizar qualified in third, and I cannot see Vizar on my scores, so either Vizar must have exited or jumped out of the server. Madal qualified in 4th and now running in 7th, as I mentioned. Phil Varley made a 5th position qualifier, and he has moved back down to 9, so one of the guys dropping backwards is Phil. Cos currently in 6th position and qualified in 6th, so he's holding position. Marco qualified in 7th and is currently running in 3rd. So Marco, the big winner here so far, up 4 places into 3rd position already. Terry Gores was in P8 for quali, and he has unfortunately retired. And you can see Jan Mulman was qualifying in 9th, but he's making his way up here into 5th. And now we're watching Charger as he's starting to apply a little bit of pressure ahead. You can see Cos has got a little bit of a driving slowdown penalty there as well. So we've got Charger pressuring Marco for podium position in 3rd place, which should be interesting. And Cos now applying pressure on Madal, who made it up to 6th. So we missed the overtake there. Madal passed Cos, and Cos is now trying to regain that place, where this is the fight for 6th place, with Cos in 7th currently standing. Good opening first few minutes here. We're into 10 minutes into the race, and already we've had 2 retirements, so we're only down to 10 racers here, so all to play for when it comes to points in this championship, with Charger continuing to pressure Marco in 3rd place. Great looking race at the front. Apologies to Pedro for not showing him on the stream here, but he looks to me like he's reasonably comfortably pulling away as it stands at the moment, although I think he's had an off. I spoke that up. There you go. There's the curse. Looks like he's got off at Degner, just underneath the bridge, and struggling to get back onto circuit. He's now currently in 2nd position, having let British through, with Marco and the battle with Al here now running through. So if we go camera, we'll see a great dive up on the outside there as Marco tries to make the move on Charger, who will be on his inside right now. Let's watch from Charger's point of view. So Pedro right behind Charger as we stand here at the moment, pressuring on, having lost his position. He may have damaged his car, maybe struggling for a bit of grip here, because that looked like it was quite difficult to recover that. But it's great to see these two guys racing in front here. Charger pushing on to Marco. This is now the race for third place, with Pedro dropping back from first position into fourth, so he'll be frustrated with himself for making a mistake. It looked like he was on his own on the track, so almost certainly just stepped off and maybe just took too much pace into the second Degner. But you can see he's getting some extra pace here, and he's going to try and get it under the underside. I don't think it's worth having a battle at this point. Great closing of the door there, but defensive driver, I think Charger's keeping himself pretty safe just behind here as Jan Moolman picks up a slow drive penalty. So safe thing to do, I think, if you're Charger at that position. Actually, Pedro's qualifying time was considerably faster than some of the other drivers. No point in racing too hard when somebody's on the charge back up the table. Of course, you want to protect yourself, but he's losing his rhythm here. It looks he ran very wide there, did Pedro. But yeah, right back in the mix here. Charger playing it safe, and I'd say Marco being very firm with him into the Casio triangle, making sure that he didn't actually take that position. He's going to have to earn it from Marco up front there, and some great driving so far. So British must be feeling quite happy. He's now got a 13-second gap ahead, and the fight is all here for second place as Pedro attempts to recover his position, which he's just done very well, driving up the inside of S-curve into Degner 1 and 2. So Pedro regains second place, having got back down to, I think it was fifth at the time. We're now looking at Marco and Charger racing together for fourth and third position. So far so good in the race. Charger making good progress through the pack. 2 retirements, Justin Burley and Terry Agoris. Early exits from this race. We're only 13, 14 minutes into the race. Still got 47 to go, and a mandatory pit stop in this race. The circuit has such a variety in terms of its combinations. 2 or 3 very long sections, and then a lot of technical work through the S-curves. This section here, as we heavy brake into Casio Triangle, was introduced on the... I think that might have been a little bit of a... he's outbroken himself at the in second place there. I think Marco's... and he's put the pedal down too quickly, and I hit the inside wall there. That pit lane entrance is an absolute killer if you get it wrong. Looked like he hit it straight with his nose, and it could well be that we may have lost Marco from that battle. I don't know whether that's permanent damage. No, he's on the move, just waiting for the other guys. But there's the pit exit that he's had to drive past, which means he's got a circuit to go if he's going to do any work with the car. Currently now running in ninth. So we've had a number of accidents so far. But just to recoup, we have BGB British in front there. If he can keep his cool, looks like it could be a race of consistency required to make this a winner here. So BGB British currently holding 12-second gap to Pedro, with Charger now in third in the podium position, and Madal having made a beautiful dive into second place from the grid start in third, now making his way up in fourth, chasing down the podium positions already after only 14 minutes recovery. So as it stands, you've got to fancy Madal here for a podium position if you can keep the pressure on. Koz in fifth, Olwen in sixth, Phil Valley in seventh, Marco, having just made that mistake, in eighth, Jan Moolman in ninth. So Jan has had some issues clearly in the race, struggling to get back into this. I can't see that anyone has made any pits yet. And then you've got Jagdice at the back in 10th place with 2 retirements. So I'm checking the gap here. Pedro currently 12.7 seconds. We'll keep an eye on that as we go through, whether he can actually eat into British's leads. If the qualifying times are anything to go by, he had about 0.6 second on him in quali, but it's completely different when it comes to race, as you can see. So 12 seconds a gap. Let's keep our eye on that one. Alwyn looks like he's making some closing in here on Cos in front. This is 6th place, chasing 5th place. Who was that? I think that was Cos. Cos has gone too heavy into 17, I think that is, yeah. Yeah, I think Cos is now making a pit. Yeah, Cos is taking this opportunity to dive into the pit. So I think there was an issue. Actually, I've just seen damage for Jan Mulman. Transmission damage, yes, 71% transmission damage as far as I can see, getting that fixed. There you are. So an early pit there just to recover the car. So you can see Cos trying to recover, get himself back into this race. That he'll take that as his single mandatory pit stop. So that's his early pit. He's taken an early pit here. He's got 44 minutes to run, which just means he's going to have to really drive hard to keep good levels of consistency through this race in order to compete at the end. Oh dear. Looks like we have more disasters here. Jag Deist and Marco have both required. This is massive attrition here, and Jan is running around with quite severe damage to his car. So we have 4 retirements: Marco, Deist, Burley and Agoris, and we are 43 minutes left of this race. 9 runners. Sorry, I do apologize, the screen's just changing here. But it does to me look like we have Marco has recovered. My mistake, thought he had retired. Marco is back in the race. It was making his pit stop. So Cos and Marco made their pit stops, and you can see there are retirements already as Mad Al now starts to apply some pressure on Charger. Just checking in on the Pedro British fight, first and second. That is gapping consistently at 12 point something, 13 point something seconds. So at the moment, British is pegging Pedro into second place, and Mad Al is the man on the move right now as he starts to apply more pressure on Charger. Charger, well known for apparently having the widest arse in the whole group. Let's see how he takes advantage now. No need there. Very comfortable into T1 and 2. So yeah, Mad Al's on the move. So he will be feeling much more confident now, having made that early mistake or that early contact that he might have had on lap 1 after a stellar opening corner or 2. Because now he's pushing comfortably, I think, onto the back of Charger, looking potentially like he might be back into podium positions. Starting to settle down, I think, a little bit, the race here, but Mad Al's still definitely applying pressure. Places to pass here, I'd say there's probably only a handful. S's, just not a possibility. You're going into Degner here. It's very difficult to make this dive move up because it's a very easy corner to defend. You let the speed flow out to the left and just defend the inside of this apex. Extremely slow corner. If you get a great exit, you could possibly get a drag and start to apply pressure on somebody as you come into the spoon, but it's extremely difficult to brake late, keep the car balanced well into the first turn 13 of spoon and make an overtake maneuver. What you're really hoping for is to get a lot better exit out of spoon onto this back straight, pressure the other guy in front of you to take the throttle too early, and then just drive up here and put them under pressure for 130R in a couple of seconds. And you can see it's a great way to put people off their flow, keep the car in their mirror the whole time, and then if you carry more pace through 130R, you've got a great chance of getting it into triangle. So this is where most of the overtaking's made, but it's well known for being a very difficult place to make it stick because it switches left right at very slow speed here, and a lot of traction loss as you exit in all forms of in all vehicles I've found. And here's a good opportunity. He's got himself underneath him, I think, for the start-finish straight. I'm expecting Charger to go defensive, but he's chosen not to, keeping it safe. Charger making sure that he keeps his car on the tarmac at all time. So nothing too tricky there. I think Mad Al just kept putting the pressure on, and Charger decided not to push too hard. It's early in the race. Maybe later in the race, Charger wouldn't have been so accommodating. Yeah, it's through now. So Mad Al, having qualified in third, made it up to second very briefly, has now moved through the pack and back into third. So we're moving into 20 minutes past in this race, 2 pit stops, I think enforced pit stops. Still looking at Jan's car here. So Jan was clearly pushing hard through the early parts of the race, looking very, very pacey, very positive that he was going to make his way back up to the top of the track. My screen is showing here that he has significant transmission damage, which will be affecting his car no end. Here we'll be able to check that if we take a little look at his driver profile, and we get to see some of his lap time. So bear in mind, last laps for the front 2 cars were both in the 205s. You can see he's struggling with consistency here. He's had some 206s and 207s. These probably not having the greatest race, as it looks like it. I spoke that up, didn't I? That might be part of the problem. Maybe he should be taking a strategic early pit stop to see whether he can make an escape here. So moving back up the field, British currently holding Pedro at 13 seconds. That's looking like it's consolidating into a fairly comfortable rhythm. With Pedro in second, Mad Al in third, 15 seconds behind that race for the front, and Charger now 1.4 seconds adrift of Mad Al. Varley 14 seconds behind Charger in fifth. Having a quiet, steady race, I'd say, keeping the car on the track by the look of it. Olwen in sixth. Jan with a very damaged car and some real issues. Thinking maybe he should pit this lap, but I might be forcing the pace there for him. No, he's continuing to lap. You can see he's struggling, I think, with the car. Cos is in eighth, having had a great battle in the third, fourth, fifth positions. And then Marco in ninth. Looks to me like Owen's taking his pit stop on the 23rd minute mark, putting him down a few places. Was making his tyre change there, so that's quite comfortable for him. So far, fastest lap is in the hands of Pedro Magalhães, who has put in a 2 minute 4 second 0.259, which is around 0.8 of a second faster than British, currently holding the first position. And if I'm not mistaken, he's now starting to gap Pedro. So Pedro either had a couple of slow laps, or British is starting to put some decent solid laps in here, because the gap has extended from 13 to 18. Yeah, BGB British looking pretty comfortable at the front at the moment now, in fact extending it even further to 20 seconds. So this really is in BGB British's hands here, whether he can keep this race together. He's got another 36 minutes to keep the car on the tarmac. Easier said than done. Just seeing, just going to keep an eye on, looks like a back marker. Going to have to take around the outside here. Good work. The back marker lets him through. Yeah, just checking here. Mad Al currently 9 seconds behind Pedro. The question here is whether Mad Al's going to start to press on Pedro and start to try and make a move for second place. Charger now 3 seconds behind Mad Al, but still I'd say fairly comfortably gapping himself from Phil Varley in 5th. You can see by the overlay how much these cars rev. Picking up the throttle there in 8,000 revs and taking it to around about 12,000 revs before picking the next gear out. Just an intense noise from the car. Can't even imagine what these must have been like to drive. Yep, Madal holding position here, 9 or 10 seconds behind Pedro. Getting to a point of reasonable stability in the race here. So far we've had 3 pits. We've had Koz, Olwyn and Marco who've pitted. We have 3 confirmed retirements. We have Jack Dice, Justin Burley and Terry Agoras who've also retired. 9 runners. And now we're strung out. We have quite a spread field, so the racing is now going to happen by pit exchanges and by consistency. It's a long lap here. These are 2-minute, 5-second laps at best. It's quite a long and flowing track, but it's one of those tracks like most race circuits. You find your rhythm, and if you can find the rhythm and stick in that groove, you can really put together very consistent lapping. But it's so easy to lose your rhythm, to lose your concentration, and to just drop off 1 or 2 corners, and then sometimes it seems like this thing goes out of grasp, and before you know it, you've made 2 or 3 really bad laps, and you're starting to apply pressure on yourself to relax again and start to find that rhythm again. Practice, of course, is the safety net that all drivers rely on to give them that muscle memory. For them to not need to concentrate so highly to put in fast, safe laps rather than fast, crazy laps. Madal holding a comfortable 3rd. Will he be pleased with that? I guess so. Having qualified in 3rd, if he can finish in 3rd, no problem with that. But having put himself into 2nd place, and given the pace that he's holding now, he probably could think he would have held 2nd. But here we see Miguel, as he's had 2 times now where he's outbroken himself into turn 16. We could pick that up a little earlier. So I think he's taking this opportunity to pit. And Koz has pitted, Olwyn's pitted, Marco's pitted, and I think we're going to see Pedro take his opportunity to pit. He's currently still in 2nd, of course, now going to drop through 3rd and probably 4th. He might re-enter 5th or 6th if I estimate the timing correctly here. But you can see he's obviously having some issues, and he's just ducked in. Maybe he's realised that his transmission is it's not actually his, it's Jan Mulman's transmission is the problem. Pedro doesn't actually have any damage to his car. He just took this opportunity to take a pit. So current readback is what we've seen is Charger is in 2nd. I must have missed it. Apologies to everyone on the stream. I must have missed that one, but Charger has made it up to 2nd. Madal is in 1st, and British, who was currently holding the lead there, good 20 seconds ahead of Pedro, has dropped back into 3rd. So, oh no, there you go. I'm doing a Murray Walker, aren't I? He's also pitted. So this is British in 3rd, who has done his pit. So he's covering off Pedro, who has also done his pit. So what we're looking at is slightly out of sequence, with Madal currently holding 1st with an 8-second gap over Charger, with a 5-second gap over British. Madal and Charger have not yet pitted. British has, and Varley hasn't as well. So Varley also running out of position in 4th as it stands at the moment. Apologies for my confusion. So question is, when does Madal pit? Currently in 8 seconds ahead of Charger in 2nd. His total gap is probably only 13 or so seconds on British, so he definitely can't get in and out and still retain 1st position. So would he test himself, run a few laps, see if he can extend this lead, get comfortable, but the extension that he'd have to make is going to be 30 plus seconds, I would have thought, to make a comfortable pit in and out at this particular circuit. as we see Mad Al. Looks like he's taking this opportunity. So pit stop's happening now. It's bang on the 30-minute mark, halfway through, as we watch Mad Al from the lead come in to take his pit, which should mean that British comes round and inherits at least second, because it looks to me like Charger might go long. This is a strategy I've seen Charger run before, taking a really long first stint, consolidating a position in order to move up through the pack, ending up towards the end of the race with much clearer track because of it. It's a battle of attrition, of course. With that technique, you have to be doing the first 3/4 of the race out of danger, avoiding contact and keeping safe and good consistent laps. But you can see now the difference in speed between British, who is starting to pick up on the back of Charger, currently in first place. So we're with British, changed his tyres, he's in second place. Charger in front, slightly out of place in first position. British's fastest lap is just over 2 minutes and 5 seconds, as Charger runs a little bit wide there on the exit of the second Degner, giving British a good chance. I'm not sure Charger will really defend this too hard, although he takes a nice inside defensive line. Maybe the undercut's on here. Looks like it could be. Keeping that traction is, of course, the hard thing. Charger keeping himself in first position. But I'd be very surprised, I think, if Charger got himself into a situation, because he's definitely in a podium position even after the pit exchanges here, if he can keep it together. But British is certainly going to want to move beyond him. Just hope there's no contact as we go through this move, because British has got the speed to beat Pedro. Pedro is still 20 seconds behind him. Will he try 130R? Nasty corner for an overtake, keeps it safe. He's going to try and get a great exit, I think, to try to make it through the triangle. Question is, well, Charger's just going to play defensive and then maybe hold for the next lap, and that's just good defense, really solid, and no risk taking from British. Why take a chance there? But he does have the exit. Looks like he's got a good run. Not sure how much tow you really get off this car, but it's worth begging for a little bit here. I'm sure that British will put it up the inside here. No defense from Charger by the look of it. It's just a matter of braking. Charger opts out, and by the look of it, gives that opportunity to British, who now moves back into first position. So currently Charger in second place and not pitted yet. Pedro in third, 18 seconds behind. I think Phil Varley is just starting in for his pit, so this is in position 4 as Mad Al blasts through to take fourth. So now starting to settle. It's only Charger out of position at the moment without a pit stop made. It's British, Charger, McHellis and Mad Al. Phil Varley's in the pits, and Cos is starting to make his way through the pack. So Cos, having had some early incidents, some contact earlier, is making his way. He's in 5th now, and he has made his pit stop. So only 2 cars not pitted. It's Jan Mulman, who looks like he is making that pit stop right now. He has damaged transition, as we said, and his best lap is still a 2 minutes 7 seconds, so he's a couple of seconds off the pace of the front guys. And Charger also running in the 206s alongside Mad Al. So just over the halfway mark, 9 races remaining. We have Terry Agoris, Justin Burley and Jag Dice, who have retired. We have British in first place, Charger in second, Pedro Morales in third, Mad Al in fourth, Cos in 5th, Varley 6th, Olwen in 7th, Mulman in 8th and Marco in 9th. So remember, this is the first race of this series. We're currently in Suzuka, but the race series is 4 races in duration. and we will next go to Road America, Spa-Francorchamps and Dubai Autodrome. So this is a good opportunity with 9 races on the track to get a hefty points cash going into the second round. So championship wide open, obviously, on the first round of the series, and interesting to see how the pairings and the battles are already panning out. And we can see Charger, looks like he may be struggling a little bit for grip there, ran a little bit wide on the exit of S as he takes Degner 1 and 2. So before the pit exchange, we were looking at a gap between Pedro and British of around 20 seconds. It's now 17 or so seconds. So I'm keeping an eye on that. As we say, Charger is currently out of position. The question is when Charger does choose to make his pit stop, where will he exit? It looks like he may end up back in around about 5th position. If we assume around about 30 seconds for a pit change here. Just checking on the chat here, Justin Burley's mentioned he broke the engine on the second lap, hence the retirement, which is a shame. Yeah, Pedro is starting to reel in Charger now. I guess we were kind of expecting that based on the qualifying times. Quite a significant delta between the two as we kicked off this race. Charger has now taken this moment to jump into the pits, and I'm checking who the other car is that's in the pits. Go, click monkey. So yeah, Charger takes the pit opportunity here, which will put him back. Let's see if he exits ahead of Cos. So Cos is now, I think Cos is going to make this through quite. Cos is taking a pit as well. Okay, so it looks like we might have. That looks like a second pit stop to me, having already made an earlier pit. Maybe one was for damage and this one is for fuel or tyres. Not sure what's happening. But Charger now exits in 4th place. Just making sure there was no drive-through penalties or anything like that. So actually Charger's made himself into a good, strong position there, currently in 4th place as he exits after his pit exchange. So British leading with Pedro in 2nd, Maral 3rd, Charger in 4th, Varley in 5th, Cos in 6th, Ulwin in 7th. Jan is pressuring. It looks to me it's just past Ulwin, so Jan is just past Ulwin, who goes into the pits as well. Check the gap, still 16 seconds between British and Pedro, and they are lapping. Okay, so last lap, Pedro has just put in his fastest lap, a 2:04.259. 2:04.539, sorry, just off his fastest lap. So that's a second difference between him and British's last lap, which, if that were to continue around about a second a lap, would probably put him in a reasonable position, but not contention, given that there's only 21 minutes to go, 2 minutes or so a lap, which puts that around the 11 lap mark. So Pedro has to pull out some extremely fast closing laps here to take this away from British, as the gap steadies at 16 or 17 or so seconds. Really looking here is that Maral has made it in 3rd. He has not closed the gap on Pedro through that pit exchange, so he's now 13 seconds adrift, with Charger 29 behind and Varley 7. So the movers here so far could be Cos. Cos could be making a move through the pack here. Jan Mulman obviously having pitted but not able to fix the transmission, still obviously struggling back in 7th. It looks to me like Marco might have retired, so I think maybe that was a lap ago. Marco looked like he may have made an exit here 3/4 of the way through this race, which is a shame. Yeah, Mark will be disappointed. He was qualifying in P7 and running in around about that or higher, and then looks like he's had to retire from the race. So just checking back on the quali, we've had a swap of position. So Pedro qualified first, now running in second with British holding him off quite comfortably. Their difference in the quali times was around 0.6 of a second, but it looks to me like it's all about just consistency, and British seems to be keeping it together at the front here. Mad Al qualified 4, currently running third, so that's 1 place improvement. And Charger, who qualified in 10th, has made his way up to 4th, and very comfortably made his way to 4th as well, keeping out of danger, not tackling overtakes or defending too heavily, and running currently in 4th. So that's a 6th place jump up for Charger. Great looking drive so far. Phil Varley currently running in 5th and had qualified in 5th, so he's holding position with Cos in 6th, who had qualified in 6th too. So currently running in position, as it were. Jan Mulman had qualified in 9th and now running in 7th. But we have had 4 retirements, so there's only 8 cars on the track as it stands. Everything's up for grab. Alwyn is in the back of the pack at the moment in 8th place. Drinks break. Also, great to see the club racing sticking to its code of conduct, if you like, consistently through this race. Always about racing clean, racing fair, but racing for position. You know, go for it. Go for your race victories. Go for everything that you can, but not at the cost of being fair to your competitors or racing clean. Don't put your car in a place where you can take other drivers out. It's so unrewarding to jump onto online servers and online races and get punted off the track by somebody who just sees red or doesn't really understand where the braking points are and tries the impossible. So great, clean racing. Race clean, race fair, and race for position, always sticking to that goals. Pedro drawn it back to 15 seconds, but again, I think this is out of reach unless something drastic happens up the front here for British. Madal, I think, getting slightly dropped by Pedro in 3rd position. He was in 13 or so seconds and now making nearly 16 seconds, so that looks to be stretching out. Likewise, I think maybe Madal and Charger tracking at the same pace roughly here, but 30 seconds is not likely to get recovered, and like I said, unless something happens. Just checking the score here, showing me that Alwyn is in the pits. That looks terminal. Wow, that would put us down to 7 final races. Goes to show, you should keep it on the tarmac here and you're in for a bonanza of points. Great racing so far from British, who's kept his head throughout this race, despite some real close wheel-to-wheel action earlier on. Pedro not giving up, but a little bit too high to climb, I think. Great to see the single class racing here, single car racing as well, because it's no need to be concerned about balance of performance with these cars. They're all identical from the start, so really it's down to driver, race strategy, and setup. I guess they're the only 3 variables that differentiate these cars on track. is primarily, obviously, it's about the driver and how they're able to keep high speed laps at great levels of consistency. But there's a lot of time to be gained if you know how to set these cars up properly. Not actually professing to be much of a wizard at that, but I can see how much of an advantage you can get when you pick up a setup. We were discussing this in previous race comms. Setups are very, very distinct to you and your driving preference. Going online and finding somebody else's setup doesn't necessarily guarantee you any kind of speed, but it does help you to find out what maybe shouldn't be done. There's many times I've taken somebody else's setup and thought I was driving a completely different car. But so it's all about the way you drive. Do you brake late, turn in and deal with the speed in the corner during the corner, or are you all about getting it straight and level so you can get early access to the throttle? It's very much, your hands sawing at the wheel like a rally driver, or do you like to keep nice, consistent radius in the turns? It's a really distinctive thing that is everyone's unique preference, and that means you need to set the car up to work for you. And then of course you've got the added demands that are put on to specific tracks, which might require a very different setup, with maybe more left or right turns, or adverse cambers that can really require special and unique setups. So back to the racing. 7 cars in this race. British is having his lead eaten into. I don't think he'll be too concerned. There's 13 minutes left in this race. The gap is down to 13 seconds, and I think he's fairly comfortably taking this. Mad Al, 20 seconds behind Pedro now, so that's slightly extending. And Charger's actually making some moves. He's probably gained 3 or 4 seconds in the last couple of laps on Mad Al. So really just a case of finding where your groove is and checking out, what kind of consistency you've got here. You can see here from Charger's lap times, if we take a little look, he's run the last 3 laps on 206s. He had a bit of a wobbler at 210, pit lap on lap 17. And then, so he's actually picking up the pace when you run your eye down there over the last 9 or 10 laps. Actually getting quicker and quicker, and he's made his fastest lap there, just off the just above 2 minutes and 6 seconds. So Charger's playing the game right here. He's really starting to put on a late charge. If we compare that to Mad Al, Mad Al is very much more consistent in the 206s and 207s. Admittedly, he made his pit change over at lap 14, but I think he has more 205s scored here, and then just a big old bunch of 206s, and maybe dropped a second and a half in 22. So that's why I think we saw that gap change over. Interesting to see how the drivers are performing here, but the difference is noticeable with Pedro, who is majority in the 204s and occasionally dipping into the 205s. So really the fastest and most consistent driver looks to be Pedro, because British is a consistent 205 driver. Low 205s, in many cases low to mid 205s. In fact, if you really cast right through, they're really solid and consistent laps, varying very little except for, again, last lap, where I think he had an invalid lap at 206.8, probably one of his worst laps in a while. So you're really getting to see how people find the rhythm through the race. It doesn't happen instantly. Just checking my timing board here. If I'm to be believed, that looks like Cos is out. Wow, okay, so at this rate, there may only be 3 finishes. Automatic podium positions for the race finalists. So Cos is out. Looked like he made 22 laps here. We have 11 minutes of this race to go and 6 drivers. So a huge chunk of championship points on offer. Very, very different outcomes for this race. I'd say British probably had the most consistent race, having started in second, got overtaken by Mad Al in corner 1, but gathered it back and has had a solid race at the front. Pedro was comfortably leading earlier on, if you remember, had an off, got himself back to 4th, and has been on the recovery ever since. Mad Al, who made a great dive up for second place on corners 1 and 2, dropped back considerably in the pack after what could have been contact. Oh, a little wobble there. That was interesting. British got himself a bit excited as he goes into final S curve there into Degnes. And Charger, I think, just consistently climbing. His pace is increasing as the race. He's obviously really settling on. Maybe Charger's an endurance driver, right? The first hour is just a warm up for Charger. Starts to find his pace, starts to find his groove because he's continuing to drive a really solid drive here in fourth, having made 6 places from his quali. Phil Varley just very, very steady. I mean, no issues for Phil. He kept out of trouble. I think he might have had one slight off. A good recovery, and currently sitting in 5th place, which he's got to be pleased of. Always great to see so many nationalities in the RWB. It's not RWB, it's RWB International. Brits, South Americans, Brazilians, Canadians, French, American. It's just great to see so many different nations taking part. Obviously everyone's welcome. It's one of the best things about this club. Very inclusive, all skill levels, and nice fair racing, avoiding contact as much as possible, and racing as it should be. And I think what you get from that level of openness is the right type of drivers that join the club and the right type of drivers that get involved. It can get heated, of course. You can get very excited when you're in a race. A lot of pressure, blood and heart rate. Is often quite high when you're in the race. Sometimes you see red mist. Sometimes you get a bit annoyed about situations. But every single time that happens, it's sorted out very quickly. Everyone's very mature, and nobody leaves anything behind. So great to see as Charger consolidates, I think, his 4th position with 8 minutes remaining of the race. Yeah, I think if this race was 90-minute race, not 60, I think maybe Pedro might have made his way back up to the lead here. But as it stands, if British can keep this high level of consistency, he's going to keep this and get 1st position. So great racing here. This track has been quite brutal. It's actually it's half of the field we've lost tonight through all kinds of reasons. We know one which was about a burnout engine. But obviously there's been some contact probably earlier on that I might have missed as well. So looking at Jan here, or I hope I'm pronouncing that right and it's not Jan. In 6th place. Had a very exciting start to this race, let's say. A few contacts early on in the race. Obviously picked up some damage to the car. My screen is showing that he has transmission damage. So he's obviously struggling. His pace was reasonably quick earlier on in the race and still struggling. But, nobody rages quits around here. You race till the end because you never know what's going to happen. Phil Varley, really solid race. A couple of incidents early on, but keeping it up. Consistent pace. Fastest lap 2:06.6, but maybe a little bit of consistency. Last lap was 2:09, so a 3-second drop on his best lap. So it's just a case of building through consistency. Charger in 4th. Mad Al in 3rd. Pedro 10 seconds from BGB British with 5 minutes to go. Can he make 2 seconds? No. 5 seconds a lap. 3 seconds a lap. I don't think so. This is looking like a fairly comfortable victory for British, who's put his car in the right place at the right time. He didn't get too disappointed on the first corner, having lost his second position, held steady, and has made it through comfortably as he runs just wide into this final phase of the race. 5 minutes to go. You can get brain melt, especially if you're older. As your concentration fades and you start to think about the future and not about the present, you're already thinking, hey, I'm in first place here, I'm doing really well, gonna hold this, get first place. You're already thinking about the future, and occasionally you can make mistakes at this point in the race, but it looks like British is not going to do that. He's keeping it really tidy on the track. 6 finishes out of 12, who'd have thought? Especially after I told my rubbish stories about how difficult it is to hit a wall on this circuit. So clearly I was wrong. Geek fact for you now. We're currently playing in 2020 on Race Room Experience. Great simulator, simulating tyre models, engines, suspension, telemetry all over the car, slip angles, and all of these incredible things. This track was first seen in a video game in 1983. And it's currently in the Namco Museum. I was 12 and I was addicted to computers back then. I don't remember it, and anyway, it would have been about 6 pixels back in the day, and you're looking at sumptuous graphics that we now start to take for granted in these simulators. But they're very effective at creating a racing environment for each driver. Some of us are sat in nice, comfortable rooms. Others are squeezed into the corner of their back room or bedroom. But it doesn't matter. You're in the moment. The screen is right in front of you. You've got a steering wheel in your hand. And it's very immersive. So great that we have this as a regular part of our lives. It's a fabulous hobby. Just wish it made me fitter. BGB British. Lap 27, 16 seconds ahead of Pedro, with Mad Al 22 seconds behind Pedro. No gapping there. Charger has slowly but surely decreased the gap between him and Mad Al through this race. Another one of those races, if there was another 30 minutes, might have pegged it and made third position. So Charger in fourth currently, having had quite a long period in the top 3 through the transition of pits, changeovers. We have Vali in 5th and Jan Mulman in 6th. It goes to show some damage there from Jan Mulman's car. He's obviously really struggled for pace over the race. His best lap in the first section of this race was 2:05.811, so he's definitely had the pace of the top running cars, top 3 or 4 cars, but very much struggling now. Last lap was 2:24 from Jan, but there you go. He's stuck in the race. He's kept driving. It's probably an unpleasant race to make, but he's going to make 6th place. That's a huge haul of points. So credit to him for sticking in it. So it's been a fairly comfortable race for British up front, as we take a little look at Pedro in 2nd place with Manal behind him. 1 minute to go with this race. We're not doing any interviews after this race. Going to keep an easy finish and out for the end of the session today. But I probably would comment, I think Charger probably deserves to have driver of the day. Great tactics to keep that first stint as long as he did. His pace has improved all the way through the race, and his consistency has been great. And from 10th quali up to 4th is no mean feat. This isn't an easy track to make that many places cleanly. He defended when he needed to, but he didn't close the door on anyone, didn't get into any nasty situations, and has really just kept this solid. So my racer of the day would go to Charger. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's been a fabulous race. So we see PGB British, looks like he is on his final lap now. As we go around, looking like a good finish for British. Had a great race, and yeah, just solid, really consistent. Tracking ahead of him, looks like he might. Oh no, spoken that up. This is his final lap. British has spun with 17 seconds. Pedro is closing this in 13 seconds. I think he might make this recovery, but I spoke that up. I really need to stop doing that. British has had such a solid race. Now the gap is down to 8 seconds. He'll be so furious with himself. Final lap, wiggling all over the place. I don't know whether he's got some issues in the car now. But this is the final lap excitement, as you come to expect when you watch an RWB race. Take nothing for granted. He's comfortably cruising ahead at the front, and then on the very final lap blows it into out the end of the S-Curves complex, and now he's dropped 8 seconds. If this were a longer race, again, Pedro would have the hunger for this, because he's seen at least 10 seconds drop off from the leader here, but just got to keep this on the circuit now. Concentrate hard, keep the rhythm, forget what just happened, and get this one over the line. But he's made my heart flutter there a little bit, so keep it together, British, come on. That's Jan Mühlmann, I think, having his transmission issues, probably running a good 6 or so seconds off his fastest pace because of his transmission issues. As we see now, British exit the final corner out of the Casio Triangle onto the start-finish straight to win this race. But kept it entertaining for us right to the end there by losing it on the final lap. Thanks, British. Pedro now exiting the last corner to take second place with a gap of only 7 seconds. That was interesting. After a solid quali in first position, now we see Mad Al. A great race from Mad Al, who was very low on the circuit after an off early doors. Just kept his head down, kept the consistency high, and he's going to come through in third position on the podium. Great finish. Will he be happy? I don't know. He qualified in third, made third, so that's great. But probably the race of the day for Charger, who made it from 10th all the way up to 4th in this race with just really solid racing. Nothing too challenging, nothing too difficult, not getting in anyone's way, knowing when he needs to race, knowing when he needs to avoid danger, just really solid. Picked out that 4th position, he'd be very happy with that. And Phil Varley in 5th place, 22 seconds behind Charger, so they're really spread out over this second half of the race here. Good gaps between each racer. And then as we go through these final sections, you'll see Jan Mühlmann, who is actually 60-something seconds behind Phil Varley, but credit to him for keeping it going. Koz has told me in the chat he ran out of fuel. He'd be so cross with himself for that. Great racing all around. Some retirements, some DNFs, fuel, engine damage, and probably a couple of other particularly nasty incidents. But what we've got is a great finish for British with Pedro in second, Mad Al in third, Charger 4th, Varley 5th, Mühlmann 6th, Koz 7th. And Alwyn, you can see these are the DNFs. So great racing around, everyone. I thought that was fantastic with some interesting. The first section was really interesting. Then we started to spread out. We had some interchange over the pits, and then it just seemed to stretch out. Each car was just pegging each other or extending their lead, and it was a kind of a comfortable finish, unless you're British and you want to throw it off the track in the final circuit just for the TV cameras, right? So it leaves me to just say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. That's the first of the series. So these are now the championship leaders. and you'll see us next week on Friday the 21st when we take a visit to Road America. Fabulous circuit again. So that's the 21st of August, 9:30, usual time. And don't forget, don't race alone, always race at RWB. Cheers.